Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Willow Katz and I'm a makeup artist.
I'm going to ask you a few questions investigating the process of creativity.
Okay.
How can you describe creativity in your own words?
Creativity is a case of taking something that you see or something that you think of and using your own interpretation to create something new and bring it to fruition through all different kinds of media, be it, in my case, makeup. I also do like decorating cakes. Some people do sketching, but it can be poetry, it can be art, it can be anything. But it's about bringing something from within you or your interpretation of something else and doing it on your level, the way you want to do it.
How do you express it personally?
Well, obviously through makeup, but I do special effects makeup, which is a lot more materials based and colours, changing features, and that can be really interesting, working with shapes and to create different effects. But then there's also like just beauty makeup, which is just enhancing what's already there, and that can be quite lovely, just creating beauty in something that's already there. But again, there's lots of, for me personally, that's what it is. But I also like doing decorating cakes, making cakes, all different for people that I love. I think it comes from you, but yeah, for me that's what it is.
How long have you done this?
Always. Professionally, I trained this like last year, so I guess professionally I've been doing it for a year. But how long have I been creative? And it's been my passion all my life. My mother's an artist. When I was a teenager, my best friend's Iranian. We did a lot of like strong eyes through makeup, and and again baking. That's something I've always done. So yeah, always. I think creative people have always been creative.
What inspires you, and how do ideas come about?
Social media is really good because you get to follow other makeup artists, designers, bakers, poets. So I like following people's blogs. I like looking at photography. So a lot of my stuff can come from other people, but then it's my perception of it. Being a makeup artist, you often do period work, so I'll often be looking back at certain eras, the fashion, and then depending on what time it is, in the Victorian times, fashion was based on what royalty was doing. So I look at the royals, and they set the standard of what was fashionable. Nowadays, you're looking at, again, through social media, actors, popular singers and rappers, just popular culture. But then there's also stuff like my mum, the people around me, personally, on a personal level. And then there's also stuff that I just think of. If I'm working on a completely blank canvas, stuff that I just want to express, be it colour, shape, yeah.
Where and how do you find you best generate ideas?
Generally with friends, if they ask me to do their makeup, I find that I feel comfortable enough and free enough to just kind of have a play, and that's often where you work out your favourite things to do, whether it's using a particular brush to get certain brush strokes. And again, you're not working towards a goal, you're just being creative, so I can just kind of let it flow and do whatever I want. So for me, I like that the most, definitely.
What is your process of idea generation and development? How do you take an idea and turn it into a final product?
Well, I work on film, and when you work on film, you have a makeup designer and you follow their brief. So as a general rule, what will happen is when you're going through the makeup design process, you'll all kind of sit down together, and your makeup designer will give you their idea of what it is that they're looking for, the effect that they want, and then you take it from there. But obviously, being creative and being artistic, everyone has their own different way, be it just it's subtle things down from a lip shape to an eyeshadow to the eyeliner flick, of the way that you sculpt the face. With special effects, it's how you sculpt when you're making pieces. And so I think you have to, when you're looking at a design brief, there's lots of research involved, and there's lots of discussion, but also it comes down to kind of you being able to just sit down and give yourself the time and the space to have a play around with what you need to do, to get the best possible thing that you can. But often that can be quite spontaneous as well, and you're just told to do something and you do it.
How and where do you source your materials, and what sort of materials do you use?
Materials are very important with what I do, especially when it comes to things like special effects based. So when I'm sculpting, there are lots of different materials. Some people prefer clay, but then you've got actual moulder's clay. It's almost like a plasticine. And the thing that's good about that is it stays moist, it doesn't dry out. So if I'm working on a sculpt, I can come back to it a month later and it would still hold its shape and have moisture, so that I could then work on it further. Then when it actually comes to making the piece, I prefer to use platinum silicon. I find that I'm generally working with I'm working on people, and we're trying to make human effects. So I find that platinum silicon has a more fleshy appearance. It looks more true, and it holds colour in a different way. When it comes to colouring a piece, again, there's all different ways. You can airbrush, you can paint on directly, you can use flocking within the silicon when you're mixing it to give it a base tone, and then you wash over that with other colours, which I personally like to do. I add my own flocking and then colour on top of that. In terms of other materials, you can use... I don't believe in labels so much, so I think that when it comes to my beauty makeups, my materials, it's more about colour than it is about quality, because depending on what you're doing, they generally hold the same kind of weight, I think. But if I was doing something very classic, very beautiful, I would tend to go for higher quality, because the colours do have a different quality to them. If you're using glitter, the more expensive ones are finer, they look a lot more glamorous and beautiful, and they catch the light in a different way. So there is that to keep in mind when you're choosing the materials you're using. Yeah, but it's very, very important for the final effect.
Can you name or describe some challenges you face when creating?
I think often when you're doing a makeup, especially if it's for fashion or film, and the level I'm at, I'm not the designer. So I'm taking on someone else's brief. So that could be the makeup designer's brief. And like I said before, being an artist, we all have our own particular style. And I'm lucky enough that I've never had this, but I know that it does happen that your style cannot match the person who's created this brief, and you've got to find a way around that and actually tackle your own style and match it to someone else's. And it's very hard, I think, because even though it's your job, even though it's a professional environment, your art comes from within you, and you can take it very personally when someone doesn't like it. So I know that that can be challenging. I've been lucky enough that I haven't had that. When I was working on some of my student films, when I was training, I had a few actresses who, they have problem skin, but their character is not meant to be wearing makeup, but they don't feel comfortable in front of the camera with no makeup on. And you've got to find that middle ground where your artist is happy, you are happy, and the director's happy, that you have fulfilled what the character should be. But the artist has to feel comfortable enough to carry out their job, to fulfill that character being in front of the camera. And if they feel exposed by not wearing makeup, you have to do that. And so I had a few incidents like that, which I found challenging, but it was a very good learning curve, and it worked out well in the end.
And what drives you to persist and persevere when facing these challenges?
Because I love what I do, and I strive for perfection. I'm definitely a perfectionist when it comes to my craft. I never ever want to look back at my work and think it was mediocre or that I could have done better. So, there are days where I have to get up at, my wake-up call can be 2:30 to 4:30 in the AM, and that's an average for when you're filming. You wake up, 5:30 is a lie-in. But you know, you walk in and you're tired, or you've got a challenging artist in the chair, and I can see why people might be like, oh, you know what, I just can't be bothered. But I think that's what makes you either professional or an amateur, is, you know, it's your job and it's your passion, and you want to produce the best work you can, that it isn't an option to kind of go, I'm not going to finish this, or I'm going to do a half-hearted job.
What would you say is your favourite or best piece of work so far, and why?
I can't, that's like a favourite child, isn't it? I think, like, I've been really lucky. Because I've trained in different elements of makeup, I've been able to work with different types of makeup. So I love special effects, but I find it the most challenging, definitely, because it's the furthest from what I was comfortable with when I walked in as a trainee. I'd never really done sculpting before. I'd done some special effects, but it hadn't been with actual prosthetic pieces. So doing prosthetics, I find it the most challenging, which in a way makes it the most rewarding at the end. But you know what, I started loving makeup for beauty makeup, and I think that will always be my favourite. And I've just worked on my first feature film, Cinderella, and that was all very beautiful makeup. And I loved every single makeup that I did on it.
What inspired you to create this?
Well, obviously, again, my design brief, but also having my own style. You know, I look at someone's face, I think about the period that we're doing it in, and I take it from there.
How do you promote your work?
Being freelance, self-promotion is key, and it's something I'm still working on. The honest truth is I don't promote my work, and I need to, in order for the advancement of my career. At the moment, I'm getting by on word of mouth and references, but a lot of the people that I train with, they have their Facebook pages, which they post all of their work to. Twitter, again, social media is amazing now for self-promotion. I guess leafleting and advertising. Some of the girls advertise themselves in newspapers for more like beauty, makeup and events, weddings and things like that. At the moment, I'm not doing any of it, and it's something I should be doing.
How do you manage your time when doing professional makeup?
Manage my time in what respect?
Like, how do you manage your time? Like,
how do I get it done?
Yeah.
Okay.
With regards to time management.
Yeah. Okay.
Like having enough time to live your own life and have
right.
a career and a family and a home and a car and a life.
Yeah, I hear that. Okay.
You have an understanding boyfriend, that always helps.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's literally that was the word. Yeah, I have, my partner's amazing. When I'm working, he doesn't mind my coming home at 11 o'clock at night and leaving at 3 a.m. He doesn't mind that when I get home, I don't really feel like having a conversation. And if I do, it's going to be all about me and how amazing my day was at work or how bad it was. Because, sometimes it's like, I had this woman in my chair and da-da-da-da-da. And others will be like, oh my God, baby, you should have seen this and how. So, yeah, I think having really amazing, supportive and encouraging people around me is very good. When I'm at work, it's very important that I've had a good night's sleep. I found out the hard way that taking things like vitamin supplements and having a good diet are actually key. When you're working those kinds of hours, your body, your health is important. And if you don't maintain some kind of healthy regime based on a good diet and proper sleep, you're just going to crash. And emotionally, once you're tired, you can't do the job. And I learned that after having like an eye infection and an ear infection, like in the space of 3 days, and I just wanted to curl up in a ball. So yeah, I think it's between the two: good sleep, healthy diet, supportive, loving people around you, and just keep loving what you do.
What advice or message can you give to other creatives, designers and artists?
If you don't love it, don't do it. It's hard work. There's a lot of people out there that want to do what we do, and it's a privilege to be able to be working in something that you love, and I think perseverance as well. You're not going to walk in and get it right every single time, and I found it very hard to not kind of beat myself up if I didn't feel like I'd, you know, you have something in your mind and it looks so flawless and so perfect, and it's about, you know, learn your style, appreciate your style, keep nurturing yourself and your inspiration, and never say no. Never ever say no. One of my tutors, she was, you know, working for free for like 3 years, and working 3 jobs on the side, and one day she got a call at 3 in the morning from a director that she'd worked with on another student film that she'd never got paid for, and it, like I said, it was 3 in the morning. He said, can you come to Croydon now, we're doing a music video, and it ended up being someone huge, and she just exploded from there. So you don't know who's who and what opportunities are going to lead where. So yeah, self-belief and just hard work, and don't say no, keep going for it.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end this interview?
No, that's all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking part, Willow Katz.
My pleasure.